The average American eats 4 pounds of food a day. They also waste 1 pound of food a day. $166 billion is spent on food that is never eaten. Yet 1 to 8 households in the US has struggled with food security, and 44 million people in the US are facing daily hunger.
That's my friend Sandy talking, and if you can believe it, her numbers are actually out of date. It is shocking to me. The most prosperous country that has ever existed still is having trouble feeding all of its people. I should also probably introduce myself. That's me. And this will probably be definitely be the last time you see me because I don't like being on camera. I also really liked this orchid when I was setting the frame up, and now I kind of hate it, but that's beside the point. Anyway, food waste in general is responsible for quite a bit of the waste human beings leave behind. And the industry itself is responsible for hundreds of tons of CO2 emission. For me, that's a number that's too big to even fathom, but I know it's a lot. I'm pretty interested in the relationship we have to food, from growing to how we prepare it to how we dispose of it. And I can't help but notice that we are really bad at this. Most food is being wasted, at least in my household, and I live in New York City. I can go to some of the best restaurants in the world and spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on incredible meals, but on the way there, I will most definitely pass 2 or 3 people that haven't eaten in days. It's a discrepancy that is often ignored, but it is right in our face, and I'm wondering, how can we be better with our food? Not just for ourselves and our own health, but the environment as well. How can I buy better? How can I eat better? How can I prepare better? And how can I dispose better? And so in this project, I came across a group of women that are truly just living their normal lives, but doing things that are helping. And I wanted to share their stories because I took a lot from how they're choosing to live, even in my little apartment in New York City. So my first question was, of course, where do we source our food? And I had 2 people in mind. This is my friend Samantha. Samantha is an arborist, and I really just wanted to get her philosophy. I also ended up sitting down with a woman named Karen Archiplay, who runs Archies Acres, a hydroponic farm that actually does some great work with military veterans. But I wanted to see how we can source our food better and how that might start the chain of waste and disposal on a better path.
I feel like somewhere along the way we lost our connection with a garden, with having a garden and caring for a garden, because we've been sold that our worth is in our work and not in our home. But somehow we got misled somewhere. Somewhere along the way we learned that it would be better to not have to take care of our garden than it would be to, be very active in the garden. If we continue down this road of low maintenance, xeriscaping yards that don't need our attention, or lots of hardscape and all of that, if we continue down this road, what we're looking at is higher and higher temperatures, 100%, because we have what's called the heat island effect. It's not dramatic to say that if we continue on this path, we are going to warm the planet irreversibly. We'll get to a certain point where bringing it back would take major drastic measures. I mean, I can't even think of how much you'd have to do to try and reverse something once it gets to a certain point. But there is so much to do still now that could make a difference.
The best thing we can do in life is make a difference. If we're not all in it together, then we should all quit. This was my dream. I wanted to own a farm. I wanted to just turn off the city. I'd been through a lot, and it was just like, okay, let's try this life. We moved here 18 and a half years ago, actually when my husband returned from Iraq. My husband be in Iraq, and even getting the occasional letter home just on how tough it was. They didn't have the right equipment. They ran out of food. Colin used to say that USMC stood for You Suckers Miss Christmas. To me, it was like watching this disaster happen before all of our eyes. And when Colin got out of the military and he built that first greenhouse, there was a lot of talk come on Archie, one more tour. Sign up, they're giving $30,000 sign-in bonus. You only have to go for 5 months. It was like just a lot of BS. But a lot of his friends were doing it because they didn't have another way to go. And I thought, you know what, we have a farm. Our small greenhouse was 30 by 60 foot. And yet it equaled the pay of an E5 in the Marine Corps being shot at.
I had my son naturally, and a huge part of having a healthy pregnancy and birth is being incredibly healthy. And that's not just what you put in your body, it's how much time you actually spend out in nature, how much vitamin D are you getting, like how much sunlight are your eyes seeing? And then to put into your body something that you know was grown in healthy organic soil, that was not treated with pesticides, that was not treated with herbicides. I was always raised to eat good food and eat organic food and cook at home as opposed to just like going out or ordering in or cooking from boxes or something. Growing it became something I did more in my adult years. Since I now live in a biodiversity hotspot, there's so much opportunity and there's so much sun. I do a lot of home orcharding as well as edible gardening, providing an environment that has really healthy soil in a landscape that is mainly natives, that helps capture carbon from the atmosphere. So that means more opportunity for growing food. So I've set up my fruit trees in my yard to have successive ripening, which essentially means that they won't ripen all at the same time. They'll ripen incrementally. So you can see that this peach, for instance, is already leafed out. It has its fruit on it, but my nectarine over here is only just starting to blossom. So that is, I will get these peaches first, and then I'm gonna go over there and get my other peaches, and then the nectarines come, and the apricots somewhere in between there. It's important to me to have that because that means that we will have fruit all summer long. These are mostly stone fruit and citrus, so we will have fruit for every single season. I think it's important for people to be more minimalist about what they want and not be like, I just love peaches, I want peaches all the time.
Organic is a no-brainer for me. So I eat organic, so why would I ever feed you something that's not? I think that big farming, go big or go home, that's gone. How do we protect our rivers, our streams, and our oceans if we're pouring chemicals into them? And if that chemical is built to destroy a bug's stomach, what's it doing to yours? And why are we the ones that have to get certification, right? I mean, organic was initially how you grew food. And then they came up with all these shortcuts. And those shortcuts have not done anyone any well. That's not doing our planet good.
To grow healthy, good food and to grow healthy, good trees, we want a fungal dominant soil. And so that's why you see mulch everywhere in my yard. Soil can capture carbon from the atmosphere and really help fix a lot of things in our atmosphere regarding our carbon problem. Really reduces temperature, increases rainfall, and it's very important to a healthy environment to have good soil.
Our farm, to minimize waste, and we did not want to participate in being one more business that was polluting. And so we came up with Hydro Organic, but to sell living basil. It was necessity. So we live at the end of the hose. 2 hours east of here, Imperial, water is $20 an acre foot. 4 hours northwest, Ventura, $40 an acre foot. Right here in San Diego, $2,300 an acre foot. So if you're growing basil in the ground, we could have 7 to 9 crop turns a year. Hydro-organically, we have 17 to 20. With tomatoes, it's 8 to 10 times the crop with 1/10 of the water. It is absolutely a point of pride for me to think that we participate in protecting our rivers, our streams, our oceans, but also we're reinvigorating the family farm throughout America and beyond. I want to definitely be mindful of the footprint we leave and how we can show other people that, to eat organic should not just be for the elite. It should be for everybody.
If you buy herbs, like if you were to stop buying herbs because you're growing them in your kitchen, you would be buying a lot less plastic. A lot less. I mean, you get a small amount of herbs, it comes in a chunky plastic thing or a plastic bag. So I personally think that those small movements, even if it doesn't feel like a lot of people talk about, like, no, it's the corporations who need to stop using plastic. It's the corporations who need to stop using, fossil fuels and things like that. It's still a good feeling to me to not buy that plastic container, and to show my son that it's as simple as caring for a plant, that then you don't have to buy these plastic containers. I feel it on my conscience every time I throw a plastic container in the recycling bin. Every time I pick it off of the shelf at the grocery store, I'm just like, shouldn't be doing this. It's so easy to grow, So I really try to focus on what I actually use, plant what I actually use.
Honestly, this was a really fun 2 days of filming. I learned a lot. I made full pieces, by the way, for actually every woman you're going to see in this documentary. And I can tell you that here we're just scratching the surface of their story. So if it's of interest to you, I really recommend checking it out. But something in the back of my head kept poking at me, which was that I, again, live in New York City. I don't really have the space to be growing any more than what my windowsill can carry, and so the result is I am going to be buying a lot of food, organic or not. And this is where I was really inspired to sit down with my friend Sandy, because Sandy has an incredible story she'll tell you about in a moment, but it's lent itself to a mantra or a philosophy of zero waste if possible, and for me this was the most accessible. Sandy works in the same industry as me. She cooks a lot. She is constantly shopping for food, and yet she's found a way to minimize her footprint as much as possible in this modern world. And for me, that was the most inspiring. So I wanted to sit down with her, and that led to a completely different conversation I wasn't expecting.
For me personally, I think it's my journey coming here and my background of having, grew up with nothing. I grew up with nothing, and so when my family escaped, we were in the refugee camp. We were there for about 9 months, and the Red Cross was there, and I just remember just lining up for food, and because there's 5 of us, my siblings, and we would get like a certain amount of rice and canned food. And each week we would stand in line, and Red Cross would give us that depending on the size of our family for the week. And then, or sometimes every 2 weeks because they're not there all the time. And so we have the well to get fresh water. So those are like our meal is just kind of have to last. I try not to waste food because to me, I still have that, the memory of like, that's all the food unless it's rotten, of course. And I almost never really want to throw out any food because I'm like, oh, that may have to last. In the wartime, and the connection to food is the only time that we actually get to really sit down and kind of make a plan. What are we going to do is like to talk about the future, to talk about what our plans are. And I think the way we connect is because we also wanted to forget what's happening around us, and I think that's how we connect, in the culture, in the Asian culture, in my culture, my family, is that we want to just share the meal. We want to forget what's happening around us. This is our time. This is what we're going to eat and enjoy at the moment. Because you know what? What's around us may not be enjoyable. That's how I connect with my daughters. I make it sure that from Monday to Thursday we have family meal. Like from Monday to Thursday, is mom cooking.
There's definitely an increase in the bond in our family from having this garden to care for together. We enjoy coming out here all the time. It's something we do every single day. It's just part of our lifestyle. It's natural for us. I think our lives have changed from doing all of this gardening and being more sustainable at home to being just overall healthier and happier. and having confidence in that health. What I see in my own son is that he is perfectly happy to eat fresh, healthy food. I see a lot of kids like really addicted to snacks and boxed things. He doesn't eat any of that. What I think is really endearing is that sometimes he sees trees, or he'll see trees in books or something, and he'll go, yum, 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 yum. He knows that food comes from trees. And he sees our food growing on our trees, and he wants to pick it and eat it right then and there.
I always never want them to throw away anything, because I said, you know what, even if they order something, right, like a rice dish and they didn't finish the rice, I say, I could make fried rice with that. I could make a lot of things with that. I said, don't throw away anything, like, because I could do a lot with it, like even the bones of the chicken. For me to sort of, save the food, and I started to see how much waste that we're actually throwing away. And when I started composting, I realized that a lot of things that we can compost, and I started to see less trash in my trash. My mother-in-law lately, she insists on us composting.
And this is where the conversation took the turn I wasn't expecting, but I honestly should have been. Because whenever we eat, obviously we have to throw away. And so magically, or naturally I should say, the conversation turned to food disposal, which again is actually probably the biggest problem. For me, what I love about meeting these women is that they're not trying to do anything extraordinary. They're just trying to do their best, and I feel like that's something we can all do. For me, it's almost like they listen to the earth as it's speaking, which I know that sounds really cheesy, but it just is how it's kind of coming through for me. So I'm going to give Ly Hayslip, Sandy's mother-in-law, the stage and let her inspire you like she inspired me.
So people over here throwing away too much food. For me, I collect it and then I buried it underneath where I plant the garden. That's what you call organic. That means no chemical. My mother, every time she sees me, she complains about nowadays everything we buy from the market, it got rotten within 24 hours. Before we harvest this from the garden, we bring home, it can last out for 10 days and still fresh. Now everything, chemical.
Ly's journey also led me to sit down with Monique, or Mo, as she likes to be called, who runs a small composting business in LA.
Composting, for me, is the most accessible thing you can do for climate change. There's a lot of really powerful things that will help move the needle with climate change, but composting is accessible to every single human, every single corporation on this planet.
For us to waste in food, that means you disrespect God, Mother Earth, you disrespect your ancestors who worked so hard on a land so that you can able to have food to eat from generation to generation.
And it's so powerful. There's two kind of umbrella categories of this power. There's this landfill diversion, which I think most people understand more intrinsically. This in landfills, organics create methane. Methane is 80 times worse than carbon dioxide in the first 20 years of its life. So when we are bopping around with this 2050 number as the time where we really need to reduce our carbon emissions, methane as a greenhouse gas really plays an important role because it's so potent. But then there's this second thing, this second umbrella category that's like a 20-for-1 deal, and that's the creation of this soil amendment. Compost is a probiotic for our soil. It heals sick soils.
We are creating a soil that is rich with organic matter, and so the worms come and the beneficial nematodes come, and then we have this environment that is all in synchronicity with each other. It's all in harmony, working together.
When you heal sick soils, you get better water retention, you have stormwater filter, you have healthier plants, which means healthier humans, you have carbon sequestration, you have food sovereignty. So it becomes this, almost like this crazy network of benefits that happen when you start composting, that landfill diversion, that precious resource that is limited space, and that soil amendment creation.
We in California, we have drought, so we cannot or should not waste any water. So then we make all this in here. Why it waste? When it can grow in a garden. That's what they call organic, about. See? If you can put it in your body, why not in a garden? This is how children should understand where they're eating from, where the food is coming from. And so they don't waste it, or every time they have something nice, they appreciate it.
And for me, I'm still learning. And then for them, I hope that it's natural for them to recycle, to reuse. At least it's not going to waste. At least I'm going back to, for gardening.
The first thing I think people always need to do when they buy a house and they want to start growing things is soil. Get your soil in a good position. That can be as simple as getting Chip Drop to give you a ton of mulch. You spread out that mulch and you water it. We want to create forest floor. So if you did nothing but mulch your yard, that would do a lot. That would be a really, really good start. A lot of the time if you buy a house, it will have gravel, it will have weed cloth. Remove all of that. You remove all of that and then you mulch.
I think for people to get their minds around how can they make a difference at home and how, no matter where you live, somebody's going to be growing something. Get to know your farmer and get to know your small organic farmer, because those are the ones that struggle the most, but they believe in what they're doing.
These cliches that come up, be the change you want to see in the world, if not you, when? And I was like, no, but really, if not me, when? If not now, with this kind of nebulous place I'm at in my life, who's gonna do it?
We're absolutely not too far gone. You tool people up with knowledge, and they make the decision.
There's so much crap in the world, and I just recently learned that you can't really recycle a lot of things unless it's really clean. So I've been very mindful of that.
And then if you can grow your own food, you can have a little tiny system that grows a massive tomato plant in your living room if you wanted to.
I think for me to reuse things and recycle is also a little bit of my past, knowing that things are not always there for you, and it's just a waste. To me, it's a waste. And then of course the environment, and and that plastic bin may be very useful. You may just throw it away, but if that's all you have, that is very useful thing. And that's how I always think about everything before I throw away. I said, maybe that one occasion I can still use it. To me, I'm so proud of that.
I'll say it again, the most inspiring thing to me about these women is that they're not doing the big thing. They're really showcasing how small practices, daily practices, can be the answer to these huge problems that we're facing. I think it's easy to look outside your window sometimes in despair that we have destroyed this home of ours. But if we take these little practices, sourcing our food organically, cooking and not wasting, and composting, little things like that, and the million other practices that we can all find time in our day to do without disrupting the lives that we've created, I really find hope and see that we are the solution to these problems that we've created.